If you live in a state that allows snare trapping for fur bearers and are also a pet owner, there's a few things that might help you out to keep your pet safe and healthy, happy. And this was brought about by the fact that both our black labs were caught in neck snares yesterday, and it made me realize there's not a lot of information out there about how to get them out of trouble once they are in it. But I'm sitting in front of, or behind, this snare set. Most of the snares are set in a pathway in order to kind of funnel animals through. It's a place where it's neck down, and the animals will go through a narrow spot, and their heads are designed to go through, and then it will tighten down around their necks. It kills by suffocation, and I'm going to go through how the trap works, how to get it off of your animal, and just some other things to think about to keep you and your pet safe. Okay, so we have two labs, and our female, 5-year-old female lab, she presented when she was in the trap, barking from a distance. She still had enough air in her. Our male, on the other hand, sit. Sit, Jasper. He barked once, and I was close enough that I could hear him wheeze, but he presented, he was just sitting, sit, like this, absolutely silent. Okay. So ideally you want to keep your animals close as possible. If you know there's trapping going on in the area, keep them close, either on leash or voice command, and be within hearing distance if you do let them wander a little bit. So I'm going to show you now how the snare functions, and then how to get it off the animal. So the way the slide snare works is a cable, and it has a locking mechanism. The mechanisms vary a great deal, but they all function exactly the same. They operate by way of sliding along the cable, and as long as it's perfectly lined up, you can see the hole that the cable runs through. As long as that's perfectly lined up along the cable, it slides quite easily. It's with any tension in any other direction that it locks and can only tighten. So regardless of how this mechanism is designed, it's only designed to tighten, unless you're able then to turn it at the proper angle to allow it to slide out. So for instance, as an animal's caught in the snare, it naturally wants to pull it apart with the roundness of their neck, or if you're trying to free it with your hands. So any other tension other than that perfectly in line movement results in a locking. Keeps tightening and locking, tightening and locking, tightening and locking. Okay. So if you can envision the dog's neck through here, what you need to do in order to free the animal is to get your hands down underneath, and as much as this is bent out, you need to put the mechanism back in line with the cable so that it'll slide. Again, any attempt to pull it any other angle is going to result in locking. You need to get that lock back into perpendicular alignment with the cable. Okay, and I'm actually going to put it on Jasper here again and show you sort of what it looks like once the animal's in it. So this is similar how Jasper looked. He was tied up in the cable, which was wired to a hard anchor point. He was wound up in the sticks a bit, and this is what I had to deal with. First off, you want to grab a hold of the cable and take the tension off so that the dog doesn't tighten it even further. Okay? They may be breathing, wheezing, may not be breathing very well at all. Okay? And you have to get a hold of that cable and control the dog to keep them from tightening it further. Sit down, Jasper. You may have to stand on top of the dog, knock them down in some way, keeps them from tightening that. You need to then follow the cable down to the locking mechanism, which you might not be able to see because of the thickness of your dog's fur, and get your fingers underneath it. This might tighten it initially, but it's going to be the only way to get that free, aside from cutting it with a pair of side cutting pliers. So it's going to be tightened right around his neck, and it's going to keep tightening. So I got to get my fingers in there, in fact almost push down in order to get that locking mechanism to come back up to the point where I can get that cable out and get his head out of there. Okay, so again, getting my fingers up under the noose of the cable, getting a hold of the locking mechanism, and pushing it down and twisting it so that that will then slide rather than lock again tighter. Okay, so that's the basics. Number one, be aware of whether there's trapping going on in your area. Number two, keep your animals close. And then lastly, you hope you don't run into this, but if you have to, know how to operate these snares.